Hey guys, this week we went over Chapter 8 and just how to create tablet apps and also date picker and time picker for those new controls, just for users to select and enter the date and times and different formats. I chose to do the 3-star create your own tablet app. This is basically like a mini project, so it's just create your own app, as long as you use a date picker and a time picker to create some sort of reservation. I kind of did that in a way. Topic of your choice. Use two buttons. I ended up using three, but they did incorporate the two controls. Two of them. But what I mean by that is two of them. One of them used the date picker, and one of them used the time. Select your own images. I did that with my icon launcher and app logo, which I didn't use the app logo, but the icon launcher is enough. And custom layout and icon. All right. So what I did was created a Insulin Enforcer, just something quick. I live with someone who's a type 1 diabetic, and so this is always a big issue. So it's just a quick thing. Just reminds them to take insulin with their dinner and calculates how much is needed based on the planned meal. And all I did was just copy and paste those algorithms. The users select the date and time for their meal. They enter uh, what they're eating and their expected carbs. Program uses the carbs to calculate the insulin base needed on a 1:4 ratio, milliliters to carbohydrates. Uses three buttons. And the third submits the user's two inputs. Uh, so our conditions, we satisfied that. And a note, just because this is a medical thing, I am not a licensed medical professional. This program nor the information used to calculate the insulin needed is not to be used in place of a doctor's advice under any circumstance. The program does not take into account various other factors that type 1 diabetics must consider. And with that being said, so I won't get sued, we'll jump right into it. So here's my basic layout in landscape, and I'll show this in landscape and portrait for the tablet once we get into it. But so just title, instructions, edit text for the string for the meal they're planning to be, or the meal they're planning to eat. This is not so much recorded in that I need it for anything, but I do put it down here in my output text box. Over here, the total carbs expected is going to be a numeric value, and it'll parse that out. For the date and time buttons, that's going to be my date picker, my time picker, and I'll show the code behind that. This is just a layout. Then my calculate button shows it. I did not incorporate a reset button because if a user wanted to go back and change their meal, or maybe they put in the wrong carbs, they can just go back and change it even after they've hit calculate, and it'll show the new string down here. So I didn't even bother with the reset button. So let's look at the code for that. Just a generic layout. Nothing too fancy here. Not entirely sure why that's highlighted, but it says everything's good. Alright, with strings, not a whole lot there. If they don't enter in a date and time, this is from an if loop that I ran earlier. I decided to leave it out, but I'll leave it in the strings. Alright, all my imports. Okay, here's all the variables that I'm going to need. I went ahead and initialized. Alright, and here's my UI elements that I'm calling on. Carb input and food input, and this is just going to be that string, but the carbs I'm going to need to do the math later on. This is the output box I'll need, and then here's my date and time buttons, and it'll format the text within those buttons to show the date and time. For this is just setting my default date and time, and this I only need this because I got rid of my if loop. So just defaulting that, setting up my time and format. So take time is whenever they'll need to take their insulin, which I've set for 15 minutes before their meal. This just calls on the on-click listeners, and then I also have the on-date set and on-time set listeners in here as well. This will show the date picker dialog, and then it'll record the data because I want it to record the data in a separate variable because I'm not just wanting to display it in the button. like I talked about earlier. I want to display it in my output string as well. So that's all I'm doing with all of this. And selected date is the date that the user selected, and that'll be shown in my output string as well. And it's the same thing with the time picker. The time picker is pretty much the same as the date, except I'm working with hours and minutes and stuff. And then formatting that. And then down here, I'm subtracting out 15 minutes because remember I said I wanted them to take the insulin 15 minutes before their meal. That could be just complete bull crap. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a medical professional. This is just stuff to make for the program. Okay, and so again, that's take time is going to be the time they need to take the insulin, which is 15 minutes before selected time. And my final method is just calculating the insulin. So I'm getting a carb count, which is what they input for the carbs. And then my insulin dose is going to be the carb count divided by 4 because it's a ratio of 1 to 4 is what I set up. So 1 milliliter of insulin per 4 carbohydrates. Okay, so down here, um, I'm calling on the input that they did and just converting it to a quick food string and then formatting it all together. If you plan to eat food string, which has a total of carb count, carbs at selected time on selected date, then you will need insulin dose, milliliters of insulin at take time before you eat. So let's go ahead and run it. All right, so before I get started, here is it in landscape. Let's switch it to portrait just to show that everything's here. All right. So let's and my output's going to be down here. So let's say chicken nuggets, fries, because that is the primary food source for the person I live with. All right. So let's say this is wrong, but just to show the math, I'm going to say there's 4 carbs in this, if only. So my date, let's select the 19th. For the time, let's select 9:45. So remember, we're taking 15 minutes off of that. Okay, see down here, it put in my date for my button and then the time for my time button. So calculate, we're taking 15 minutes off of that, so it should be 9:30 is the time we want to take it. If you plan to eat chicken nuggets and fries, which has a total of 4 carbs at 9:45 p.m. on that date, and then you will need 1 milliliter of insulin at 9:30 before you eat. So let's say that it actually has 40 carbs, just for easy math purposes. It's the same string and everything, except now we're being told to take 10 milliliters of insulin. And that's it for this week. Thank you.